I sat in the hospital waiting room debating whether to stay or go. Part of me wanted to run as far away as possible and let this cheating bitch wonder where I was, but I had to face her one last time. Let me back up a bit. My name is Mike Gregory. I'm the CFO of the accounting firm Thomas & McMaster. I've been married to Jenny for just under 5 years, but that's all going to change very soon. After graduating from high school, I enlisted in the Marine Corps and was assigned as a funds distribution clerk. I was one of those guys who made sure our Marines got paid. It was by no means a glamorous or thrill-filled job, but I loved working with numbers. Liars can calculate, but numbers don't lie. And I liked this part of my job. After my time in the Corps ended, I retired and received a bachelor's degree in accounting. I began my education while in the service, so it only took me 3 years to graduate and meet state requirements for a CPA license. I met Jenny during my senior year of college. She worked to become a paralegal and hoped to become a lawyer someday. We met, dated, and got married in September after graduating from college. I started working at Thomas & McMaster, and she went to work at Johnson & Associates, a law firm that specializes in family law. The first 4 years, everything was great, at least it seemed so to me. Jenny knew that I would be away from reserve training 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year, and she was fine with that. Luckily, I was never sent overseas after becoming a reservist, but I knew it could happen. Our life together at that time was amazing. We loved each other and had mind-blowing sex several times a week. We rented a nice apartment and were thinking about buying a house and starting our family. After the 4th anniversary of our marriage, everything went wrong. Jenny started going out on Fridays after work, supposedly with the girls, to let off steam. I didn't think much of it and didn't complain because I sometimes went golfing with the guys from the office. In the beginning, she was always home by 7:30 or 8 hours p.m., and we spent the rest of the evening making love. However, time passed, and she began to return home later and later. One day, she didn't even get home until 7 or the next morning, saying she had spent the night with one of her friends rather than risk driving home drunk. A call to a friend's house confirmed this, and we went to the bar to pick up her car. Of course, the friend could have lied to cover for her, but I had no real evidence of this. I was pretty angry and told Jenny to call me if it happened again, and I would pick her up and take her home. "Yes, as you say," she said, waving her hand. This was the beginning of the end for us. Jenny became more dismissive, more disrespectful, telling me that I had no right to ask what she did outside of work or at home. True, she did not belong to me, but it seemed to me that if she really loved me, she would at least let me know where she would be so that I would not worry. I also noticed that her clothes, what was left of her, were often disheveled when she returned home from these walks, and she often smelled of cologne and something else. She would rush into the shower as soon as she got home, and of course she was too tired to have sex on those nights. Being an accountant, I also took care of all our accounts. Jenny and I both deposited our checks directly into our checking accounts. 10% of what we earned went into a savings account to buy a house and other things. The first 4 years were fine, but I started to notice some changes in her spending habits. For example, I noticed that she started buying sexy lingerie from Victoria's Secret and clubwear from some of these online companies, but I never saw what she bought. I asked her about shopping, but she brushed off my questions, telling me to mind my own business. "I don't mind you buying nice things," I said, "but I haven't seen any of it." "What are you doing with them?" "It's none of your business," she said haughtily. "It's not my business? What the fuck?" I also noticed that her salary did not seem to increase on her 4th anniversary with the firm. I asked her about it, but she just brushed me off. "No, I didn't receive a salary increase," she said. "Nobody did this. Things have been going a little worse lately." Of course, I knew this was a lie because our firm performed year-end audits for a number of companies, including Johnson & Associates, and I knew that the law firm's revenues were up significantly from the previous year. I made a note to look into this further when I got to work. Then there was a year-end party at her work. I always thought of it as Christmas, but her company decided to be politically correct and call it a holiday party instead. Anything. At first, Jenny tried to dissuade me from visiting, which caused anxiety. I know you really don't like being around my colleagues, so why don't you just stay home this year? She asked. After all, you really don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of pompous old lawyers. Maybe I just want to spend the evening with you, I said. She sighed and shrugged. Well, fine, if you insist, she said. But I intend to spend time with my colleagues, and I can't have you hanging over me all evening. What? What do you mean by spend time with your colleagues? I asked. Don't you see them every day at work? What about your evenings out? Well, maybe I'll be asked to dance with one of them, she said. Okay, I said. Is there a place on your dance card for your husband? She rolled her eyes and sighed again. I think I can squeeze you in somewhere, she said. Well, don't strain yourself too much, I said. We went to a party and I barely saw her the entire evening. She introduced me to several of her colleagues as her ball-bearing and ran off to dance with one man after another. Her colleagues looked at me with pity, and almost no one spoke to me. I never got a chance to dance with her, and I noticed that more than once she left the party, returning a short time later with some guy grabbing her ass. If I didn't know any better, I could have sworn she had sex with one or more of them. Okay, I'm ready to go, she finally said, slurring her words. She was clearly drunk and her clothes and makeup looked disheveled. I chuckled and headed to the car. She followed me and tried to kiss me when she came inside, but I pushed her away after noticing something unpleasant in her breath. What's the matter? She asked. Your breath stinks, I said. What did you drink? She giggled. Wouldn't you rather not know? She asked. I couldn't help but notice that you didn't even bother asking your husband to dance, but spent the whole night with everyone else, I said. Yes, so what? She asked, starting to worry. I also noticed that you weren't around a lot, I said. Where did you go? She laughed. It's none of your business, she said. Nothing more was said the rest of the way home. Naturally, we didn't have any sex that night. Jenny tried to correct her behavior during the rest of the holiday, but I could tell that things weren't the same as before. After the holiday season, Jenny became a bitch again. Our sex life went from a few times a week to maybe once a week at best. Her time with the girls increased, and her attitude towards me only got worse. A couple of weeks after the holiday party, I spoke with George Wilson, the accountant who headed Johnson and Associates' annual review, and learned that everyone at the firm had been given huge bonuses and significant salary increases. Jenny, for example, received a 30% increase in her salary and a $10,000 bonus. But not a single dollar of this money was credited to our account. What the hell was she doing with them? I thought about asking her, but decided against it. Given her attitude, I figured she would just lie about it and use my request as an excuse to start an argument. So I asked George if he could do some digging into this and call me back. He assured me that he would do so and asked me to give him a couple of days. 2 days later, everything went to hell. George came into my office and showed me some of what he had found. The records we received from their firm indicated that Jenny automatically transferred her raise to an account she opened at another bank. I thought about it, but realized that she was apparently planning to leave me. He also told me that they had discovered some irregularities in the company's books that could cause some problems. I wrote up this report and thanked George for looking into it. That afternoon, my phone rang, letting me know that I had received an email in my personal account. The subject read, "What is your wife doing behind your back?" When I opened it, I saw the attached video. This video ended my marriage. I recognized the players as soon as I opened the video. One of them was Jenny, and she was completely naked. The second was one of the assholes I saw grabbing her ass at the holiday party. Only this time he was doing more than just grabbing her ass. He had sex with her. It was bad enough seeing my wife cheat on me with another man, and no, it didn't turn me on in the slightest. Their words chilled me to the bone and filled me with a rage that could only be described as murderous. "Oh yeah, baby. Fuck me," she said. "Is it better than your husband?" He asked. "Much better," she said. "Maybe I should knock you up," he said. She laughed. Do it, she said. I'll make my idiot husband think it's his baby. He won't know any better. Are you going to continue having sex with everyone else in the group like you've been doing for the last few months? He asked. Not if I get pregnant from you, she said. I stopped the video, unable to watch anymore. I looked through the email to determine who sent it, hoping it was just a sick joke. I sent the answer, "Who are you and when did this happen?" A few minutes later, I received an answer. I'm Tracy Williams, the wife of that asshole in the video, and I know your wife. This happened yesterday. Do you want to meet? If yes, call me at XXXXXXX. Of course I wanted to meet. I had a million questions. For starters, how long did this last? This video explained quite a lot of what had been going on between us for the past few months. I wrote down her number and called. Hello? Said a female voice. Is this Mr. Gregory? Yes, I said. Please call me Mike. Is this Tracy? That's true, she said. I understand that you watched the video. Some of this, I said. I want to meet and find out what's going on. Okay, she said. Meet me at the Starbucks around the corner from your office. In 20 minutes. I'll be there, I said, ending the conversation. I closed my desk and headed out, telling my secretary that I would be gone for a while. It took me 10 minutes to get to Starbucks, so I ordered coffee and waited. A few minutes later, an attractive woman entered the cafe. She looked around and came over when she noticed me. I invited her to sit down and offered to buy her a cup of coffee after we introduced ourselves. After receiving her order, she took a manila envelope from her large bag and handed it to me. Everything you need to know is right here, she said. I looked inside. In addition to the photographs, there was a report written by a private investigator and a flash drive. The flash drive contains video recordings, additional photographs, and a digital copy of the report. I'm sorry you had to find out about their affair this way. How long has this been going on? I asked, and my heart was breaking into pieces. At least 4 months, as far as I know, she said. Maybe longer. I know she dated several other people at her firm. This is also in the report. Just out of curiosity, why are you telling me all this? I asked. Because I intend to name your wife in the divorce, and this concerns you, she said. Besides, I thought you should know. That is, if you haven't figured it out yet. I've been suspecting something for quite some time, but I didn't have any real proof, I told her. So, what are you planning to do? I already told John that if I ever catch him cheating, I will divorce him, she said. Like you, I had my suspicions for some time, but I had no real evidence. I already caught him once and threatened to divorce him, but he warned me that if I did this, his company would destroy me. You know about their reputation, right? I heard Jenny talk about how they often destroy the spouses they oppose, I said. Honestly, I was amazed at some of the things Jenny told me about their firm. I was even more amazed by the fact that so far they had gotten away with what they did. Victory is their motto, she said. By any means necessary. So this time you will see it through to the end, I said. She nodded her head. Yes, she said. Now that I have irrefutable evidence of his infidelity. It was my turn to nod. So what do you want from me? I asked. Nothing, she said. I just wanted to do the right thing. And not even a bit of revenge? I asked. No, she said. No offense. You seem like a great guy, but until this is done, I'm not going to do anything that might ruin everything. I nodded my head in understanding. No offense, I said. I completely understand. In fact, she added, I don't think we should see or talk to each other again until this is all over. I have a whole new respect for this woman. That makes sense, I said. Thank you for this information. She stood up and prepared to leave. You're welcome, Mike. I apologize again, she said. She reached into her purse and handed me a business card. This is the name and telephone number of my lawyer. She is a real shark, and she is waiting to hear from you. I took the card and thanked her. I thought about everything she had told me and was dying to know what was on the flash drive. I called the office and took the afternoon off, then walked to the garage and headed home. Returning home, I immediately went to my personal computer and inserted the flash drive. The disc contained several videos, all of which featured Jenny engaging in very explicit acts with various men, including John Williams. Some of them showed Jenny with John and at least one other man. A scene in one video made my stomach hurt. The camera captured Jenny walking to the bathroom. She didn't bother to close the door for privacy like she usually did. While I watched, she took off her rings and urinated on them while sitting on the toilet. I heard John crack up with laughter. "Damn it, you're just a nasty bitch," he said. "I hope you wash these things before you put them back on." She laughed. "Yes, I'll do that," she said, putting the dirty rings in the sink. "Besides, I only wear them when there's a loser around." "Why don't you just divorce him if you think so badly of him?" asked John. She shrugged. "I still like him a little. Besides, it's more fun to do it behind his back," she said. "Maybe one day I'll invite you and the guys to come over to my place and we can make him watch us have sex. Maybe we can set him up like we do with some of the other guys we're up against and then destroy him completely." "You want to make him your willing cuckold?" asked John. She smiled. "He won't like it at first," she said. "He'll probably fight it for a while, but once he realizes how much damage we can do to him and his reputation, he'll give in. Do you want to help me?" "If that means I can have sex with you anytime I want, then hell yes," John said. She giggled like a little girl. "Okay," she said. I couldn't believe that this was the same woman I fell in love with. The bitch didn't know it, but she had just declared war, and I vowed to give her a war that she would never believe. I read a private investigator's report that said Jenny and her lovers often met at the downtown Marriott Hotel at least once a week, and always spent the night at least one weekend a month. Last month, the report said, John spent the entire weekend with Jenny at my house. Looking at the schedule, I realized that it was the weekend when I was on reserve training. I looked at my watch and realized I still had a little time before she got home. So I took out the business card Tracy had given me and called. "The law office of Sally Hawkins," said the receptionist. I introduced myself and made an appointment to meet Sally the next morning. After that, I logged into our bank account and did the usual dance that one does before a divorce. I paid off and canceled our joint credit cards, then opened a separate account in my name only. I then transferred half of our money into this account. I then went to my gun safe and pulled out my .45 caliber M19911A1 pistol, still in its holster. I grabbed the fully loaded magazine, inserted it into the pistol grip, and attached it to my belt. The state we live in requires a permit to carry a pistol, and I made sure my permit remained valid. I also had a concealed carry permit but rarely used it. After listening to Jenny and her stupid lover, I didn't want to take unnecessary risks. I walked into what used to be our bedroom and grabbed my suitcase and travel bag. I threw some of her clothes into the suitcase and put the toiletries in the travel bag. I really didn't care how I packed her clothes. I placed my packed luggage next to the door. I was sitting at my computer when Jenny came home. I activated the camera on my phone, which I always kept in my shirt pocket. The phone was tall enough for the camera lens to poke out of my shirt pocket. She seemed shocked to see that I had returned home before her. "Mike, what are you doing at home so early?" she asked, entering the bedroom, which also served as my office. "I had things to take care of," I said casually. Then she saw the gun on my hip. "Why are you wearing this?" she asked. "Self-defense," I said. "By the way, I want to show you something." "About?" she asked. "What?" "Come in, it will be very interesting for you," I said. She came in and stood next to me looking at the computer. I pulled out one of the video files and played it for her. Her eyes widened as she saw herself getting fucked by two men. "Well," she said, "I think you got me." "I think so," I said. I was a little surprised by her reaction. I hoped she would at least apologize or shed a tear, but she didn't. If anything, she was more arrogant and condescending than usual. "I guess now that you know, I don't need to hide anymore," she said. "So I'll bring John home from time to time, and yes, he'll stay the night. In my bed. And yes, you will watch. And if you're a good boy, I might let you stay with me afterward. It's a shame, really. I was hoping that we could keep this from you a little longer, but I don't see the need to wait." "You're delusional, bitch," I said. I had never spoken to her like that before, so she was naturally surprised and pulled herself together. "In fact, you're going to take your trash and get the hell out right now." "What? Are you going to file for divorce?" she asked. "Because if you do, it will be the biggest mistake of your life." "Really?" I asked. "Why? Are you and your fuck buddies going to make up the same crap about me that you did to others? You have no idea what we are capable of," she said. "By the time we're done with you, you could end up in prison as a wife-beater and child molester, and your career in the reserves will be ruined. We could even download child porn onto your computer and make it look like you had a hand in it. You would be amazed at what we can do with video editing software. That's it. Go for it, idiot." "So this is your plan?" I asked. "Forcing me to be your cuckold by making up lying bullshit that you know is a lie?" "Why not?" she asked. "We do this all the damn time. I'll leave for now, but think about it carefully. I give you 48 hours to change your mind. Either agree with the program or you will be publicly ruined." "Wait," I said, taking her hand. "What?" she asked. I tore off her rings and grabbed the keys from her purse. "What are you doing?" she asked when I pulled out the house key. I threw my purse back to her. "Get the hell out," I said. "I already packed some of your stuff. Now go." She looked at the luggage by the door, then back at me. "Mike, don't do this," she said. "Out," I said. She took her luggage and left. I paused the video on my phone and watched it to make sure I captured the entire confrontation. I did it well. I'd make sure Sally sees this tomorrow. I sent the video to my email so I could have it on my computer. From there, it went to her parents, her sister, and my parents. I wanted them all to see what Jenny had become, and I didn't want her to make me out to be the bad guy in all of this. I spent the rest of the night drinking beer and watching TV. After a somewhat sleepless night, I called into work and took a couple of days off. I explained to my boss what was going on, and he completely understood. "Just take care of everything and come back as soon as you can," he said. "Thanks, boss," I said, ending the conversation. After showering, I got dressed and went to visit Sally, making sure I had everything I needed. Sally impressed me with her no-nonsense attitude. She looked at everything I had and just shook her head. "Mike, this is incredible," she said. "I've heard rumors about Johnson & Associates for years, but I've never had anything to back it up. They face serious criminal charges if what she says is true. So, is there anything we can do about this?" I asked. "Well, I'll file for divorce on the grounds of adultery and agree to a 70-30 split and no support. We will give her the usual 30 days to respond by demanding a full financial statement. In the meantime, I'll see to it that I get a subpoena to look at her bank records. If she does try to hide her account, we may be able to file perjury charges against her. Based on what she said in the video, I will also be getting a restraining order against her that covers you, your home, and your place of business," she added. "As for the rest, I'll contact the state bar and the local district attorney," she said. "In my opinion, this looks like extortion. Let's see what happens. In the meantime, keep your nose clean. Don't confront her or talk to her or anyone who works with her. Stay away from her. Got it?" I nodded my head. "Got it," I said. "Okay," she said. "I'll handle the paperwork and arrange for her to be served within the next day or two at her job. Call me on my personal cell phone if necessary, but do not abuse this privilege." She handed me a business card. "Thank you, Sally," I said, shaking her hand. That day, I received 3 phone calls. The first was from my mother. "Mike, I'm so sorry about all of this. Are you okay?" she asked when I answered. "I will, Mom, thank you," I said. "I met with a lawyer today, and she will take care of everything." "Okay, let us know if you need anything, Mike," she said. "We love you." "I love you too, Mom," I said. The next call came from Jenny's parents, who seemed to be having difficulty understanding basic English. "Mike, what the hell is this?" asked her father. "What did you do?" "What did I do?" I asked incredulously. "You mean besides that I love Jenny with all my heart?" "Nothing." "Did you hear what she said?" "Yes, I heard that," her father told me. "But I can't believe she could do something like that without provocation. Can't you just get over it? No, Dad, I can't, I said. I have already seen a lawyer and am filing for divorce. I'm sorry, son, he finally said. It just doesn't make sense to me. I had to agree. Nothing Jenny did made any real sense. Just please don't hurt my little girl. I won't, I said, ending the conversation. Her sister called too, and she was furious. What the hell is going on, Mike? She asked angrily. What did you do? I didn't do a damn thing, I said. It's your sister who's gone crazy, not me. I don't believe a damn thing in this, she said. My sister would never do anything like that. Believe what you want, I don't care, I told her. I'm just letting you know why I'm divorcing her. You can discuss this with her. I ended the conversation, angry. I turned on my computer and opened my email. There was a message in my inbox with the subject line, I know what you did. I looked at the sender and saw that it came from Jenny's company. The email looked like one of those fake messages that end up in the spam folder. I know what you were doing, and I have videos of you pleasuring yourself with photographs and videos of little girls. The email said, You have 24 hours to stop any divorce proceedings, and the files we have will be deleted when you send us a cashier's check for $100,000. If you do not do this, we will send the files to the authorities, your family, your superiors in the Marine Corps Reserve, and your place of employment. If you agree with this, please respond with agree, and we will postpone any further action. There was no signature on the email. I looked at the title, but didn't see anything that gave any clues. On the other hand, this was not my specialty. I called Bill Frederick, the IT security specialist at my company, and spoke with him. Bill, I want to ask you a favor, I said. Of course, Mike, he said. What's happened? Well, this is pretty personal, I told him. Can you keep this a secret? For you, of course, he said. Fine. I just received an email that appears to be from my wife's law firm, but I can't confirm it, I said. Could you take a look at this and let me know what you think? Of course, he said. Send it to me and I'll take a look. I'll find out in just a few minutes. Thank you, I said. The call ended. I emailed Bill and waited for what seemed like an eternity. He called back about 30 minutes later. What did you find? I asked. Well, he said, it definitely came from the Johnson & Associates network. They didn't even bother to disguise it or run it through any proxies. Too arrogant. Can you confirm this? I asked. Absolutely, he said. I can even tell you who wrote it. Would you testify to this in court? I asked. Of course, if it comes to that, he said. Thank you. I am greatly indebted to you, I said. I'll tell my lawyer. She might want to talk to you. No problem, he said. Give her my phone number. We ended the call and I immediately called Sally. She answered after the second ring. Sally Hawkins, she introduced herself. Sally, this is Mike Gregory. I just received an email that looks like blackmail, I said. I asked our IT security guy to look into it, and he said it came from the Johnson & Associates network. Really? She asked. Okay. Now I'm working on your petition and getting an injunction. Send me this email and your IT person's contact information. We'll take care of it. Don't answer or do anything. Okay, I said. Thank you. I ended the call, sent Sally what she asked for, and then opened a can of beer. I wonder what the hell was going to happen next. I found out about this later that evening. It was around 9:30 when Tracy called me. Mike, are you watching the news? She asked. No, I said. Why did you ask? Turn on Channel 7 right now, she said. Channel 7 was a local news channel, and I didn't watch it very often. I changed the channel. Again, eyewitness news reports that 4 people were killed and 4 others seriously wounded this evening when a gunman walked into the Lamplighter Bar and Grill and opened fire on a group of people with what police say was a gun-type weapon. An AR-15 equipped with a flip-up stock, the newscaster said. According to eyewitnesses at the scene, the gunman was shot and killed by another bar patron armed with a handgun. It is unknown what exactly caused the shooting, the announcer added. The scene changed, and the reporter was talking to a man identified as a witness. "It was wild," the man said. "This guy walked into the bar and walked up to the table where these people were gathered and then started shouting something about how they were ruining his life with their lies. He screamed something like, 'You bastards are going to die. You destroyed me with your fucking lies.' He then pulled out this rifle and started shooting. He fired a whole bunch of bullets before the other guy shot him in the back with a pistol. Everyone was running, trying to get out. The TV returned to the news announcer. 'The names of the victims are being withheld, pending notification of next of kin, but police say they all appear to be employed by the law firm Johnson and Associates. The shooter has been identified as Roger Spencer, a man who is said to have gone through a very messy divorce in which he was reportedly accused of child molestation. It is not known where he obtained the weapons used in the attack, but activists are already calling for more gun control measures.' Further in eyewitness news, the man was reunited with his dog." "Damn," I said to Tracy. There was a knock on the door. "I have to go, Tracy. Someone just knocked on the door." "It's the same for me," she said. "Call me if you find anything." "I'll do so," I said, ending the conversation. I put the phone away and opened the door to see 2 police officers. "Mr. Gregory?" asked one of the officers. "Yes," I said. "Do you know a certain Jenny Gregory?" he asked me. "Yes, I know. She is my wife, at least for now," I said. "I'm sorry to tell you, sir, but your wife was seriously injured in the mass shooting and was taken to Mercy Hospital," the officer said. "How bad is she?" I asked. "I really don't know, sir," he said. "I advise you to talk to your doctor when you get there. Once again, I apologize, sir." They raised their hats and left. Crap. I wanted that bitch out of my life, but I didn't want her to die. I called Tracy back. She answered after the second ring, and I heard her crying. "Tracy, this is Mike," I said. "What's happened?" "I was just told that John, my husband, was shot at Lamplighter," she said. "I'm sorry to hear that, Tracy," I said. Damn again, I thought. I was hoping that bastard would end up being Baba's bitch, and I felt even worse for Tracy. "Jenny is injured. I'm heading to the hospital to find out everything I can. Is there anything I can do for you?" Sniffling again. "No, but thanks for asking anyway," she said. "Please stay in touch and let me know what's going on." "I'll do so," I told her. We ended the conversation and I headed to the hospital. The place was swarming with police and reporters, and medical staff were running around trying to take care of the patients. I finally found someone who could give me an answer. I was told that Jenny was still undergoing surgery, but I could stay in the waiting room and someone would come get me. Naturally, I had to fill out several sheets of information about Jenny, since she was still covered by work insurance. She had her own insurance, so I figured her treatment should be mostly covered. So, I'm at the beginning of my story, wondering if I should just say screw it and leave or not. I called Sally to let her know what happened. She said she would wait to serve Jenny until she recovered from her surgery. I called Jenny's parents and sister to tell them what had happened. Naturally, they tried to blame me, but I told them that if I had done that, I would probably be dead and not in the hospital. They came and sat across from me in the waiting room, looking at me like I was a pile of dog shit on the ground. I had already been to the cafeteria, swallowed a piece of chicken and mashed potatoes, drank several cups of bitter coffee, and sat here for several hours watching the news. I have often dozed off while watching TV. It was 5 in the morning when a very tired doctor came into my waiting room. "Mr. Gregory?" he asked. I looked at him with tired, bloodshot eyes. "Yes?" I asked, rubbing my eyes to stay awake. Jenny's parents and sister came up to us. "Your wife is now in critical condition, but it seems her condition is stable. We will know more in the next 24 hours, he said. "We removed 3 bullets from her chest, and another bullet grazed her face and damaged her right eye. 1 lung was punctured and another bullet hit her spine, but we are confident she will survive. The next day or 2 is critical." "Has she woken up?" asked her father. The doctor shook his head. "No," he said. "She still hasn't recovered from the anesthesia. Just so you know, it is possible that she will never walk again and may never fully regain vision in her right eye without additional surgery." "I'm really sorry," he added before leaving. Her father looked at me. "So, are you still going to divorce her?" he asked. I thought for a moment before answering. Part of me thought about forgiving her, but what she did was still too cruel. "Yes," I said. They all looked at me in shock, but I'll wait until her condition stabilizes. "How can you be so cruel?" asked her mother. "How could she be so cruel?" I asked. "Where will she stay? What will she do?" asked Jenny's mother. "If my guess is correct, this won't be a big problem," I said. "What do you mean?" asked her father. I didn't want to speak out of turn and didn't want to give too much away. "We'll see," I said. "I'm going home, but I'll be back." I left them standing there and went home, where I took a shower and fell into bed. The next day, news of the shooting spread throughout the country. Hundreds of men have come forward saying they too were targeted for extortion by the law firm for something they never did. The stories were eerily similar. Each man was threatened to reveal some heinous act in which they had never participated unless they paid large sums of money. As a result, many were ruined for life. Government authorities intervened, arresting a number of the firm's lawyers, and the company was forced to cease operations. A massive class action lawsuit was filed against the firm and partners, seeking millions of dollars in damages beyond what was ordered by the criminal courts. 3 days after the shooting, I received a message from the hospital that Jenny had regained consciousness and was asking about me. I called Sally to let her know, and she told me there would be 2 men there to meet me. One of them, she said, was the process server. I called Jenny's parents and was told that one of them had been babysitting her after the operation. I met the process server in the hallway outside Jenny's room and another man who introduced himself as Detective Fulcher. We went into Jenny's room, where she was sitting in bed. Her mother was sitting in a chair against the wall. Jenny looked at all of us with questions written all over her face. "Jenny Gregory?" asked the processing server. She nodded her head. He verified her identity and handed her a manila folder. "You've been served," he said before leaving the room. Detective Fulcher stood in front of her bed. He looked down at her and shook his head. "You know that extortion and conspiracy to commit extortion are criminal offenses in this state, right?" he asked. Jenny lowered her eyes and nodded her head. "Yes," she answered weakly, and her voice trembled. "And you also know that in this state the penalty for each act of extortion is up to 15 years in prison and a $10,000 fine, right?" he asked. Jenny nodded her head again. He handed her a printed copy of the email I had received. "Does this look familiar?" he asked. She looked defeated. "That's how it should be. It was compiled and sent from your computer under your login name, along with about 75 others. We found them all in your sent items folder. I'm no scientist, but my math tells me that 76 times 15 years is about 1140 years, and you face a fine of approximately $760,000. In short, you're screwed. You know that I will have to arrest you. The DA is pushing for a life sentence on all charges against you, but if you work with us, maybe I can talk him into a deal with you. What do you say?" Jenny nodded again. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay," he said. "I'll leave you alone with your husband and family for a few minutes, but I'll be back." Detective Fulcher looked at me for a moment, put his hand on my shoulder, and left the room. I looked down at my soon-to-be ex-wife. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "How could you do this to me?" I asked. "I did nothing but love and respect you. I thought you loved me too. What the hell happened?" "I'm sorry," she said through tears. Her mother grabbed the email and read it. Her eyes widened in shock. "Oh my God," she said, looking at her daughter. "Did you really write this? With your own husband?" Jenny cried even harder. "How could you?" I looked at her mother. "How do you think Johnson and Associates got so successful?" I asked her rhetorically. "They did it to a whole bunch of guys who were looking for a quick buck. That's why that guy went and shot them all. And I have a video of her admitting that they did this all the time. It's no wonder you want to divorce her," she said, looking at me. "I don't blame you one bit. This is in addition to her adultery," I said. "I would never want her back. Never." I looked back at Jenny. "You still haven't answered my question." She looked at me, defeated. "I guess I was consumed by excitement and power," she said. "As for the letters, well, I just did what the lawyers wanted. I hated doing this, and I wasn't the only one. All the paralegals did the same. Please believe me." I shook my head. "I was just following orders." "Sorry, but that old excuse just doesn't cut it." "Actually," I said, "snide comments, disrespect, deception. No, you liked it. You enjoyed humiliating me. I saw the glee on your face when you told me you do this all the time. I saw how much you enjoyed humiliating me when you had sex with that asshole. Oh, by the way, he's dead. No, you just screwed up and it almost cost you your life. It damn sure cost you your marriage. I hope it was worth it for you. Can you forgive me?" she asked. I shook my head. "No," I said. "Never. I'm just glad we didn't have kids. By the way, when you fill out this financial report, do not forget to indicate your secret account. You know, the one you set up to hide money from me. I wouldn't want you to add perjury to your list of crimes." She looked at me with wide eyes. "You know about it?" she asked. I nodded my head. "Of course," I said. "Who do you think kept the accounting records at the end of the year and conducted the audit for your company? Do you think you have a problem? This is nothing compared to what we have found over the past year. Trust me, the feds will have fun with your senior partners." I looked at Jenny one last time. "Goodbye, Jenny," I said. "I once loved you." I walked out when Detective Fulcher came in with 2 uniformed officers. Jenny was handcuffed to the bed as her mother looked on with tears in her eyes. Johnson and Associates has faced numerous charges from both state and federal agencies. On top of that, a class action lawsuit for defamation and other torts currently involves more than 700 men, some of whom have been jailed and labeled sex offenders due to convictions the firm obtained on false charges. Ultimately, the court ordered the firm and senior partners to pay more than $2.5 billion in fines, fees, and restitution, with the lion's share going to the lawyers and taxman. All of the firm's attorneys were disbarred, and their licenses to practice law were suspended for life. For years, controversy raged over the firm's divorce cases. Some said they should all be reconsidered given the circumstances of the scandal. Others said only cases involving the men named in the class action should be reconsidered. In the end, nothing was revised and nothing changed. The partners who survived the shootout were ultimately sentenced to life in prison. Max Johnson, the firm's senior partner, bit the bullet at his home before the trial ended. Jenny admitted her guilt, providing evidence to the state. The judge sentenced her to 20 years in prison and said she would be eligible for parole in 10 years. When she was released, she was a shell of her former self, scarred, blind in her right eye, and unable to walk as a result of the shooting. She lived with her parents and received benefits when her savings ran out. Last I heard, she was blogging about the dangers of adultery around the world. Jenny's betrayal hit me hard. For some time, I remained something of a recluse, only going on dates occasionally. I had real trust issues when it came to women. 3 years after my divorce, I met Carol, a former Marine who also worked as a cashier. She was about 2 years younger than me and had just buried her previous husband, who had died of a sudden heart attack. We dated several times before I felt comfortable enough to talk to her about my previous marriage. Carol listened calmly as I explained what had happened. As soon as I finished, she nodded her head. "That explains a lot," she said. "I know it was hard for you to tell me all this, but I'm glad you did. You know, not all women are like Jenny. Like you, I believe in the Marine Corps motto, always faithful. And if you give me a chance, I'll prove it." And she did it, several times and in different ways, and she still does it, even after all these years. I eventually retired from the reserves as a master sergeant and began receiving a pension when I turned 55. Carol and I plan to spend our retirement traveling around the country in a new van that we bought with some of the money I received from a class action lawsuit against the company. And as Carol tells me, she intends to love me to death. I believe her and I can live with it. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story. because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.